Today, I'm going to show you 3 secret moves which most people don't even know exist. Castling. If there's empty space between your king and your rook, in one move you're allowed to move 2 pieces at the same time. The king goes 2 steps towards the rook, and the rook jumps around and lands next to the king. The only time in a game you're ever allowed to move 2 pieces at once. If your rook's on the other side of the board, you can do castling in the other direction as well. Empty space between those 2 pieces, the king takes 2 steps towards the rook hops over and lands next to the king. Looks a little bit different, but it's the same move of castling. Pawn promotion. When a pawn moves forwards and reaches the end of the board, it can't go any further. Can't go backwards, can't go sideways, so something has to happen to that pawn. We call that a pawn promotion. Now, when you get a pawn to the end of the board, most people will choose to promote that pawn into a queen. But actually, as the white player, it's your choice which piece you would like. I could promote it into a bishop, I could have promoted him to a knight, or I could even promote him to a rook. If I've got another pawn, and that second pawn gets to the end of the board, the same thing happens. I get a pawn promotion, and I can choose whichever piece I would like to replace that pawn. En passant. The phrase en passant is a French phrase meaning in passing. Let's have a look at these pawns over here. If black moves his pawn 1 step forwards, it's going to be captured by white's pawn, which captures 1 step diagonal. So black moves his pawn 2 steps forwards, thinking he's very cleverly avoided that capture. But a number of hundreds of years ago, they thought about this, and they created a rule called en passant, which means in passing. If black's pawn moves 2 steps forward and lands next to white's pawn, white will pretend the pawn moved 1 step and capture him anyway. Let's have a look at that again. Black's pawn moves 2 steps forward, avoiding being captured, and white's pawn captures him in passing, pretending he just moved 1 step forwards. So there you have it. Castling, pawn promotion, and en passant. You're now a chess expert.